week, last Saturday of the month, and last Saturday of the year. I am Alero Edu.
The only thing different is it's not the last Saturday of the decade. Amaya Makide, good morning and welcome to the program. What? It's the truth, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, before we start talking about today, let me just say big thank you to all our guests who gave us a wonderful program last week, our Christmas edition. DSS?
Yes. DSS, not DSS. DSS.
Not DSS, DSS.
You know that thing caused some kind of furore on Instagram. Okay, You don't know this, so let me share with you. A friend screenshot Bakasi's
arrest warrant. Oh, okay.
Warrants.
Okay, they are.
I wish you could really put it on. Okay, so there's this thing we made.
DSS arrest in inverted commas.
Alibaba, Bakasi, others for peace on Channels TV, December 24. So Bakasi, posted it and said, see details on Channels Television from 9 a.m. 24th December 2022, and he wrote it out, December Sunrise Special.
DSS.
Oh, the first comment I followed that was, leave them arrest
DSS.
I will make this post. They didn't collect your...
They're not collecting phone. Then forget. Then forget to collect the phone.
On all efforts to make sure that the right thing was done. People corrected whatever it was. His phone was not collected by anybody.
Can you imagine? What kind of arrest is that?
People are saying, no, these DSS people. Guys, calm down.
So DSS in this instance.
No, I'm coming. Wait, we'll get there. Kofi the Guru said, guys, read the caption. His DSS, the arrests is in inverted commas. And the people still went, look, you are just supporting this government for nothing. This one is not DSS. I'm telling you, you should just go to Bakasi's timeline and you will see. I'm like, is it that people don't read?
Well, they scan. They didn't see the inverted commas.
DSS arrests.
Full stop. Full stop. And then before you even read the rest of the story, you have reposted, and everybody's reposting DSS arrests.
So it was very, very fun last week to have Alibaba, Bakasi, Sako, Nedu. Nedu was very funny. Consequence of the season. Bros, it's not consequence, it's compliments. Is it your consequence?
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
So Nedu, Baba di Baba,
yes,
Wuli Arule, Ashiri, you guys were amazing. We can't say
thank you all very much for coming to make our special really, really special.
It was really special.
And we'd also like to thank all the guests.
And the musicians that came. Boys Yoloro. I didn't know until last week, though, that that guy was also a stand-up comedian.
Well, Alibaba said so.
Yes, I was surprised.
Yes.
He said, spell remote. REMOTE.
Remote. Remote.
Well, you can still see the entire thing on our YouTube page, Channels Television. It's still there now. So, and then Shegun Johnson, so fine gone.
So fine. So pretty gone.
So pretty gone. And then Jesse King also. Thank you all very, very much. And to everyone that came.
All our guests in the studio, all our studio guests.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for making our special really, really, really special. The Lagos Blue Line. Congratulations to Lagos State Government and to Lagosians.
Is that why you're wearing blue?
No, that's not why I'm wearing blue.
Okay. It's just saying.
But it's just unfortunate that it's not going to be in operation until first quarter.
Well, first quarter is from tomorrow.
Well, I don't think they meant January.
Well, first quarter is from tomorrow.
But I don't think they meant January.
Well, why would you say that? It's the first quarter. Any day in between.
If it was January, they would have said so.
But you know what? It's even good that is the case. I'll tell you why. I don't know the codes, I don't know whatever it is, but the risk of that vehicle is that it runs on electricity. People are going to cross as usual.
And they have been told not to cross.
In fact, the conversation on Sunrise Daily in the course of the week went along the line of people are demolishing, breaking down, vandalizing the barricades made just so that people don't have to cross.
Well, by the time one of them steps on it and he gets how many volts through him, and the others see that, they're not likely to do it again tomorrow.
Guess what? One of the infomercials that I saw said it's instant death. Why? Because the electricity going through that line is 3 times the one you use at home.
And the one you use at home, you don't touch either.
And the one you use at home, you don't touch. Now is the one that will just shock you and then throw you.
Please, 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 Lagosians, please listen to what is being said. Do not, for any reason, cross those lines. For any reason. They have told you it is instant death. There is no kosilokabo.
Huh?
You will die.
What's kosilokabo?
There's no going come.
Oh, okay.
You will die.
People,
on the spot.
Communicate this to people that you know as frequently, as often as you can, as many times as you can. There is no need rushing across the line. Let me just make a quick dash.
At all.
You don't even. I wouldn't even dare it. Perhaps that's why some of those crossings are overhead. The one I think at Agege, there is an underpass that leads you into Obakran Road.
Okay.
Before, hitherto, we used to drive over that, but now it's an overpass.
Okay.
The rail line is an overpass now, so we drive under.
Okay.
The thing. So please be advised. It's a wonderful innovation. The conversations around a rail line in Lagos, for Lagos Metropolis, started in the 80s, 70s, 80s under the Jakonde, the Metro Line conversations that he started before the Buhari government overtook that democratic experience, the Second Republic at the time. So please let us be advised.
And now, like the MD of Lamata said, I think was it yesterday or Thursday, if we're going to make progress, these are the things we have to know about. We can't remain in the 18th century and keep talking about we must progress, Nigeria must develop. These are the things that will take us into a developing nation.
Absolutely.
And we have to learn to use them and learn to live with them.
And take care of them too. That's very important.
Yes, yes.
It doesn't belong to government. It belongs to the people. Let that sink in. It doesn't belong to government. It belongs to the people.
As the Igbo say, in short. in short. Well, those oil thieves have still not been named or arrested?
Well, there are conversations being had at various levels. I think the last we heard was that, the NNPC and some security agencies are having some conversations. I think it's just what we call a long thing. Government, that fellow whose name is Government, said, look, I have a list. For God's sake.
Name and shame.
Don't even name them. Give that list to government. If they don't do anything about it, let us know. Don't even come.
So government should give the list to government.
To government. We had that interview with, I think it was Olu Phillips that had that interview. He said, I know, I will have a list of all of them.
So what has he done with the list?
And you don't also forget that the Chief of Naval Staff, was it Chief of Naval Staff? I think yes, they say it is. They said, look, we know that some of our men.
Yes, I saw that.
Some of our men
are involved,
colluding with criminals. Well, if that is coming from that level, it means you have some names. Please, there is no naming and shaming anymore. Just take them to court. I don't think this thing should cause civil war plenty.
And it's taking so long. We need to know who those people are who are against this country, who are guilty of treasonable felony. And crimes against the state are very, very serious crimes. Remember, the first time we heard that word was when Awolowo was jailed for treasonable felony. And I thought, ooh, I was a young girl at the time, and I thought, ooh, big grammar. Let's go check. What does it mean? Get the dictionary. Michael West at the time. Go check it out. What does it mean? Treasonable felony. Of course, it didn't make any sense, even after you read the dictionary.
Because there is treason and there is felony. Each
exactly.
one of them is bad enough.
Thank you. Thank you. Two bad words together, you know? So we need to know who those people are who are working against the progress of our nation.
If some people get away with it, it's only natural for others to say, well,
I can do it.
This fellow get away with it. That one got away with it. I can do the same.
Why can't I? And we keep saying on this program, it is time for Nigeria to rise up and take its place. Like somebody posted a video, disparaging Nigeria. Say, oh, they call you guys giant of Africa. Look at your Abuja at night, total black. Look at Lagos at night, black. So you people don't even have electricity, and you're calling yourselves the giant of Africa. Oh, that video hurt to my bones.
I won't even let it hurt me.
It hurt me.
I won't let it hurt me, and here is why. Many of these so-called developing countries themselves have their serious issues. But guess what? They're not going to tell you that they have their issues. So I blame us for believing the lies about us.
Go to their country and take their faults and put them on social media as well.
As the government of their own government and the people themselves have been so indoctrinated with all the positive lines and vibes about themselves. So that's what we also should do. Choose to launder the public image of Nigeria out there in the positive light, which is one of the things that, Channels Television does with its platform most of the time. The questions we ask, probing and prodding these issues is to ensure that these things don't happen. There's that creed that, bad news is good news. What makes it good news is that it sells. Bad news sells, yes, but it doesn't mean that good news is not good. How about all those young boys and girls, creating drones and all of those things? If government officials would encourage them by giving them some attention, of course there will certainly be something to cheer about us. Oh,
and by the way, talking about cheering about Nigeria, a Nigerian girl won MasterChef Italia.
Whoa!
In Nigeria, a Benin girl.
No, wait a minute. Italy is like the World Cuisine Center.
A Nigerian girl won the competition. Thank you.
We didn't go to Qatar anyway, and we still went.
Because our songs were... Nigerian songs were blaring in Qatar.
In Argentina.
Oh, boy.
One of their parties, one of their, celebratory parties, they were playing Nigerian music.
Can you imagine?
Okay, so...
And since you've gone to South America, commiserations to the footballing world on the death of Pelé.
Oh, wow. I mean, I had some gradations online. Someone said Messi is the GOAT. Maradona is the grand GOAT or something like that. Pelé is the primordial GOAT.
All right. All right. I don't know too much about football, but I know that Pelé was, excuse my French, damn good.
Mm-hmm. He was exceptional. Those were the people that made, today, dribbling isn't much of a thing. But in the days of Pelé, man, if you don't dribble, you ain't a footballer.
And he visited Nigeria too.
Oh, yeah. Quite a few times.
Yes, so we're going to start the program by looking at stories that shaped 2022.
Well, this is going to be a very good one. And then, of course, there is a focus on that NITDA bill being considered. What is it about, and how will it affect your usage of the phone? That's next.
And then we all love music. But do you know that music can be therapeutic? Did you know that? Well, we're going to be talking about that this morning.
And the artist of the week today is Pretty. He or a she? I don't know. We'll find out.
So, get yourselves ready. Get your cocoa or
Cocoa. Or you may also decide to take some other things. We'll be right back.
Thank you for joining us this beautiful Saturday morning, the last of 2022. You will know from interacting with radio and television that the 31st of December is a very important day in the year of a broadcasting station, whether it is a radio or television. On the 31st of December, there is what is loosely referred to as looking back. So what are the things that shaped the outgoing year? Many stations are going to be doing, almost all stations are going to be doing that today. Of course, we are not going to be left out. So we're going to be looking at the stories that shaped 2022. Of course, a lot of things will come to your mind. The train attack, the Abuja Kaduna train attack, the floods, what happened to the what's his name now? The Accountant General of the Federation, the Abakari story. All kinds of things will come to your mind, but we'll just take a few that we consider as most important among the many things that come to your mind when you think about 2022. And to look at those things with us this morning, it's my pleasure to welcome Professor of Strategy and Development and also an author. He's written a book called The Epistles.
The Epistles, yes.
Reflections on Nigeria.
Yeah.
Professor Anthony Killer. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here.
We also have a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Dapo Akinyosun. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us this morning. And compliments to both of you. Yes. I'm sure all kinds of incidents come to your mind when you think about 2022. But let's start by looking at the terrorist attack. We had heard of the activities of terrorists literally all over Nigeria, not just in the north anymore. And then this train thing happened. It was the first of its kind in Nigeria. It sent shockwaves through the country. And those poor people were in captivity for several months, Professor.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Well, it's a very sad thing you start from. It's sad in terms of administration and it's sad on a human level because, let's read from right to left. You say they were there for months. And I want to remind our viewers, on the surface, it's clear to know that it's sad to be in captivity for months. But I want to remind our viewers that those months, which we say, for the families and indeed those in captivity, every day seemed like a month to them. So when we say nominally a month, in terms of emotions, in terms of feeling, it sounded like years for them. It's a very, very painful thing. And, that is really on a human side of things. In terms of administration, we as a collective, it's a failure, it's a challenge of we as a people, because that tragedy was a foretold tragedy that was going to happen. The terrorists were getting nearer to the nerves, to nerve of power. And a lot of things played out. There was argument that it could have been averted if they had put security things. At some point, somebody said, no, the request for security did not follow due process, and it wasn't clear. But the fact is, that is administration. We, the people, have been kidnapped, have been robbed, and we did not have the facility. And it's important for us to learn to say we've been kidnapped, we've been robbed, not they. Because you see, part of the reason why we lack the sense of urgency and the impetus to fully intervene is the idea that we assume this thing is happening in a part of the country. If we want to overcome the issue of insecurity moving forward, we need to realize that an attack in one village of Nigeria is an attack on the whole of Nigeria. And indeed, whether it's asymmetrical, whether it's foreign, we need to realize the country is at war. We're not dealing with some issues. I've argued elsewhere that the commander-in-chief needs to come out and say we're at war. Why? For two reasons. One, because it shows a sense of understanding of the gravity of the situation. And I take this back to anybody in our families and in our work. If you don't understand the gravity of the situation, you can never overcome it. You need to understand that this is what I'm dealing with. Whether it's a lax, incompetent staff, whether it's a genius, whether it's financial crisis, whatever you're dealing with, whether it's a wayward child or a creative child, you need to understand the gravity of what you're dealing with. Then that will then allow you to deal with. The other thing is that once you admit that you're at war, it will allow you to take measures that under normal administrative circumstances, you might not be willing to take. So it's crucial for us to deal with things that way. But let's wrap it up in a good way, because I'm really trying, to be optimistic in the new year coming on. To say that ultimately it's a good thing that before the end of the year, the trains were back.
Okay.
That really is opened.
Okay. Mr. Akiashon.
It's just quite sad to say, I'm going back home. I'm going to work in Kaduna. And the journey ends abruptly and you find yourself in captivity for months on end. And I just looked at the human pain and suffering that went with it. I have given up a lot of road travel now just for the fear of getting captured.
Most Nigerians have.
Because in the horror stories that you hear can be mind-boggling. It shows that a lot more can be done with our security infrastructure. We've had a lot of stories about amounts of money being put into security. But the question is, what happens to it? How are the people who are supposed to be the recipients? You see, we have a lot of soldiers and policemen who are killed every day. And nothing gets said about that. How do we motivate them? How do we energize them? How do we re-engineer? And we should be looking at the SADA. As I said earlier, the incident has occurred. It's behind. But how do we prevent it going forward? It's heartwarming that it has reduced towards the end of the year. But however, it is how do we put a stop to it? And I think it comes from re-engineering and restructuring the whole security apparatus. It goes beyond just one arm of the forces, because a lot of money goes into it every year. But where's the result?
Let me stay with you, Sakiasho, and ask, you're a lawyer. It's not the first time we're having such incidences in the North. And sadly, some of the issues lined up, which, my colleague Alera has mentioned, a good number of them happened in the North. And not a few elites in the North have spoken about the level of poverty in the North. Is this, or these issues, are these issues, one way or the other, in any way suggesting that as a state, we do not have respect for our people in the North?
Well, sadly, most of the leadership and it would appear that most of the security forces are also from the northern part of Nigeria. Because you find that they embrace the security much earlier than the people from the south. If you take a roll call generally, you find that there are more northerners in all the arms of security. That could come from the fact that there are 19 states or so out of the 36 that come from there. So if you are going to do, ratio, you will find that they already have more people that are there. But then you ask yourself, if most of the defense comes from there, most of the extremely wealthy people come from that part of the world, then you ask yourself, how come that wealth is not translated into the poorer people there? And it seems like until there is a rejig of the system, you remember the former MF Kano did mention something about it. Sanusi did say, this poverty in the North. Obviously, until that issue is dealt with, it will not go away. You could see
Jonathan tried this
Almajiri
schools and things to at least educate and open up the minds of the people. But it appears as if there is a resistance to even opening up. I have been kidnapped in Niger State before, and I had to come out with, I gave the spare tire of my car, I gave all the cash I had. It was in the early days, then it wasn't this demanding. But I was just amazed. That was the first time I really saw poverty in the elements. I come from the Southwest. I've seen poor people, but when I saw the poverty in the places I was taken to when I was being moved from one place to the other, I was amazed. I mean, people can be this poor. And for many of us who are from this part of the world, we can't imagine the level of poverty and the abjectness of it. And it just piqued my imagination. That why is it taking us so long to address it?
Well, Prof, I'm going to ask you the same question, especially in the light of the multidimensional poverty index that the federal government itself came up with. It's not something that just suddenly happened on us.
No.
It's not something that happened over 7 years ago.
No.
It's not even something that started before the Fourth Republic. It's something that's literally been with us over the years, and we just...
It seems to be a cultural thing too.
Yes. You know, it's like if some people are not down, you cannot really govern them and all of those things. To you, multidimensional government said, of course you understand it better than anyone. To you, was it deliberate? Do you see us taking any pragmatic? I'm trying to be as positive as you want to be, you know, but is this something that is deliberately done or it is accidental over the years?
Let us look at it this way before we go to the active cause of it. Let us establish that in development, there's a correlation between emancipation, middle class, and collective responsibility. Where there is no mass emancipation, where there is no strong middle class, what you tend to find is a world of extremes, i.e., you would have some very rich, powerful people and you have a few very rich, powerful people and a lot of very poor, unenlightened people.
Which is what we have in Nigeria.
Which is what we have in Nigeria. Now, I want to take you to something. That scenario we have in Nigeria happens in society where blood, nepotism, luck trumps merit. It's very important we look at that thing because we overlook it. The societies where most people are in the middle, where there are very few rich people but also very poor people, where everybody's just doing fine, tends to be a society based on merit. It tends to be a society where productivity trumps title, where activity trumps birth. And we go to the point. We now ask ourselves, are people poor or are they impoverished?
What's the difference?
The difference is a lot, and that's the cause. You see, people are poor when they're not able to turn their productivity to prosperity. People are impoverished when they are deliberately kept so. Because the resources that ought to go to their school, to their hospital, to their general well-being is being siphoned by some. It is so because those who ought to become head of police stations, generals, head of intelligence by merit are not allowed to get there. Of course,
so most Nigerians in this category are therefore impoverished, if we're going by your definition.
By my definition. That's actually all of Nigeria. Actually, and you see, we say the whole of Nigeria today. Let's be clear. In the story of humanity, you know, I laugh when we talk about the goodness of man. Goodness of man is overrated. You know, man is evil because we're all really descendants of murderers, immigrants, and people who have adapted. The meek one died because they just walked over them. It's the theory of evolution. All over the world, the trajectory of humanity has always been to oppress, to subdue, because of greed, to take away from the weak. It is revolution, enlightenment, some kind of ethos that has fought those who can and say, no, we're not going to do this anymore.
And consequently, governments and systems are set up
exactly to do that. Yes.
Which raises this question that I'd like to ask you, Mr. Akionshu. There's this vexed conversation, and it's really... Okay, let me be nice. I want to be as positive as you today. It's a little concerning when you hear some arguments for or against. There are those who believe that the lowest level of government, which is the local government system, is one, the first line of defense against insecurity, and two, also an energizer for at least some measure of welfare or well-being for the people. But when we hear arguments like there is no such thing as third tier of government, the autonomy for local government system is not constitutional, and all those things, I just wonder, what is your take? Because while growing up, we had environmental officers come, and they didn't come from the federal government. They didn't even come from the state government. They came from the local government, offices. Second Republic, the same thing. I was living in Mushin, and God help you if your street or your compound was dirty. But what we have now, even the Third Republic, it was very, very strong. I remember with joy, the Lagos Island government of Adeniji Adele. Yeah. They had a massive IGR system as a local government. They had this gold bus. I still see some of them in relics, but hey, they still exist. So what's your take on this whole conversation that's stalled the constitutional amendment process till now?
Sorry, but I cannot miss this shot. But seeing so many republics makes us feel you're so old.
I'm a young man.
My God.
I'm a young man.
History.
But speaking realistically, what you have seen is that there's been an erosion of all those arms, particularly the third level of governance. Should it be autonomous? How did it operate before when they were not autonomous? It worked somehow. And so all this excuse, using the Constitution to say it works, it doesn't work, I think the excuses. The most important thing is that we need to get governance down to that level. And whosoever has been given that duty has to find a way to fix it.
And then to get it done.
SAN.
For the first time in the last week, in a while, I went through the streets of Bariga recently, and I was amazed at the number of streets that have been tarred there.
Yeah.
It's the same problem. Street concrete interlocking tiles in many of the back streets. Google Map took me there, and I was amazed at what I saw.
Yeah. That's why Google Map could see it.
Yes.
That's why I saw it.
So it shows me that, look, if you want this thing to work, let's stop making excuses. If you have a duty, if you cannot do it, then get out of the way. But don't tell us that the Constitution doesn't empower you or whatever it is. Of course, I'm a lawyer. I know that we should follow the law. However, the law is that if you take a job, then do it.
But Mr. Akionshu, many state houses of assembly are against the autonomy of the local government.
Well, whether they're against it in terms of how the local government leaders themselves tend to become over-ambitious, over-powerful. I begin to see them become lords unto themselves. But the important thing is that as long as the House of Assembly stop at their own duty of checking them, what they're supposed to do is to have an oversight and see they're doing what they're doing. You're not supposed to be a stop or to prevent them from doing it. You're supposed to check what they're doing and see they're doing it right.
Okay. Now, let's move away from the terrorist attack. Let's go to the massive flooding that we had. I mean, if my memory serves me right, the flooding of 2022 is supposed to be the worst that Nigeria has ever seen. So the rainy season is going to come again. It is not something that happened on us without us being aware it was coming. And we know it's going to come again because this thing is a cycle. To your mind, have we been preparing for the next rainy season? to ensure that this doesn't happen again? Thousands lost their lives, lost their homes in the flooding of 2022.
I think we kind of localize this issue of flooding and don't pay attention to what is going on around the world. I think this is all tied to this issue of global warming.
Yes.
Which has not been given the kind of attention or energy that it deserves. We can prepare for the worst, but when the worst that happens far outstrips what we have prepared for, it makes what we have done negligible. I mean, I was reading in the newspaper, someone was trapped in her car in the US, and she was tweeting to people and communicating with her family till she froze to death in the snow.
Oh, God.
Now, that is a country where they are prepared to deal with these issues, but it just goes too far. So what are we doing in our own little bit to attend to this climate change? The pure water you drink, the little bottle of Ragolis that we throw away and throw into the gutter, all have an effect ultimately. And until there is a mass education of how we can take steps to also curtail the global warming, we will all be victims of it. But yes, our emergency responders can do better. Our emergency response is sometimes delayed, but it depends more on humanitarian assistance, what people can give, rather than what is our own level of preparedness to fight with it.
But that raises a question. Going by what Alera said, Prof, we were prepared, rather, we got the information well ahead. 365 days in a year, we were told that we had more than 200 days
of heavy rainfall.
I'm not good in maths, but I'm very, very sure that's more than half.
More than half.
So if that is, we knew it was going to happen, we knew it was going to be bad, we knew it was going to be worse. It's not like it's the first time we're going to be having such severity. In 2012, we had something similar. And there were many people who quoted the fact that this is the worst in 10 years. So we knew this could happen. More than 200 days of rain in 1 year. I mean, that really is something. So we knew it was going to happen. So going by what Mr. Akiosho said, what could have been done that was not done?
Well, I think, you see, this is lack of good administration governance, but underlining it is a vision and the vigor to do things the right way. The key to disasters like this is prevention. And where we are, I understand when we say we have to look at the global context and everything, but you see where we are, the kind of problems we're grappling with is almost an insult to progress humanity has made. You know, it's almost an affront to the development that science has made. Because in reality, the flood that we had, as you rightly say, was predicted. We were told that we're going to have X number of times more than we have. What have we done? Nothing. So what should we do? We need to do three things. 3 E's. We need to educate, we need to engage, and we need to engineer. So we need to build things like the problem we had with the Cameroon neighbors. Let's not forget that. We say this thing as if just water came out. We had an agreement with a neighboring country to build some infrastructure in dam, which we did not build. They did theirs, the open trouble started. Let's not pretend it's one kind of God-sent act. It's man-made, this one. Let's be very clear about that. And I believe, and this is where much as positive I want to be, the issue of local government is vexatious. I believe that, well, I'm an outlier. Left to me, the most important arm of government should be local government. Because that is where the real administration of day-to-day runs.
Yeah.
The other things like general defense and maybe foreign affairs can be at the center. The rest should be lower. So I believe that the local government should be in charge of managing. They should be in charge of conceiving the policy for disaster management in the local government, and then they should be in charge of implementing it. Perhaps agencies can be elsewhere, but the conception and implementation should be at local government
But it's
level.
not like we don't have any example, Prof.
Yeah.
As Mr. Akiosho said the other time, when you get a job, do it.
Yeah.
The example of Lagos, for instance, is one that is significant. Oh God, before the Bar Beach was treated the way it was treated, such that we don't have to make, right now we'll probably have Victoria Island that is now an island indeed because there would be no
Way
land,
to get there,
whatsoever. So, but the government of the day at some time was able to deal with these things. So if the job of whoever is supposed to do this, my point is, yes, the local government should be the epicenter of governance indeed. However, it's not like we don't have an example of states being able to do it. The example of Lagos is one.
But you see, that's the thing. We have to be very careful. You cannot govern the general on exceptions. You see, just because one person is able to do things, what you need is a system.
Yeah.
Until the system works, you're going to have exceptions that cannot be replicated.
But you spoke about vision the other time.
Yes. But
should visions be exceptional, or should they be endemic?
They should be endemic, but they should be cascaded. But you see, the vision that works is a vision that builds systems. That is the whole point. And what we're missing, we talk about the local government, but in reality, to tell people not to throw plastic sachets and bottles on the road is something that starts from the school. We go back to a level. You see, we are looking up, whereas most of the problem are down. A lot of time, if you want to change the society, you start from the school, you start from the community. Whenever Femi Awolowo was doing his project in the 50s, one of the things in his hidden notes was the idea that you're going to turn the whole society, he said, to an open school. What he meant was that get people in school, get the children to go back home to tell their parents, teachers said we shouldn't do it this way again. And you are going to educate the whole society. What was he trying to do? Was trying to move us from a rural pre-modern society to a modern society. We have people on our streets today that you can see from the way they drive that they're more stupid than wicked, because they have no clue of the traffic laws. They have no clue, even sometimes the self-preservation, because otherwise, why would somebody on a bike, on a tricycle, going as if he's going to cross somebody in an SUV? You can see that really there, what is at play is not greed or wickedness. It's actually stupidity.
And suicide mission, perhaps.
Well, the Greeks say when you're stupid enough, you end up killing yourself. That's the way it goes. So what that tells us that we need to go back to education in our churches, in our schools, in our communities. And let me use this opportunity, something that's very clear to me, the road, which is going to be my mission in 23. Let me use this opportunity to appeal to our church leaders to, if they can, dedicate a Sunday every quarter to the concept of the Christian driver.
Or a Muslim driver.
Or a Muslim driver. A religious driver. In our churches, in our mosques, in all temples. Maybe it will help us a bit, because funny enough, the road is a metaphor of people's life. The way people behave on the road, you'll understand the society.
Perhaps one example that might help people, Prof, is just to tell them, okay, what if the Prophet Muhammad was with you in the car? Would you drive the way you are driving?
Those are the things. Exactly. What if Jesus would do? Would you behave that way? Those are the kind of very good that we need to pick up. And you see, and the thing is this: you talk of vision. The governors, we're looking up. I know we'll get to election, but let's just hint now. We're looking up as looking down. Everyone is looking at the president again in this country. Whereas there's a lot happening on that before you get to the presidency.
Yes, Mr. Akiosho. A lot of Nigerians felt embarrassed when our super cop was arrested, when our accountant general was arrested. People who are supposed to be looking after us, looking after the well-being of Nigerians, and the accountant general supposed to be looking after our commonwealth, was the one caught with his fingers in the till.
Not fingers, both hands.
Both hands.
Because you can't take that
Amount of money
of billions
with fingers.
Oh, God.
Your whole arm. You packed it.
coming from an SAN.
But you see, and it all boils down to this issue of dealing with corruption. Because if there was punishment for bad behavior, people would tend to behave much better. What you find is that even in instances where people have been caught and imprisoned, you find the system forgiving them and giving waivers and giving pardon. And I wonder, what is the essence of this pardon? Are we saying we cannot find enough people? But it goes back to how is justice administered? How quickly is it? And sometimes I feel a sense of responsibility that lawyers are deployed to delay justice.
I'm glad you
and
do.
sometimes even I go to courts and I see how technicalities are thrown in to prevent or to delay justice. And until we all take responsibility and say, we need to ensure that justice is not only seen to be delivered, is also delivered quickly. If the man who has put both hands in the tills can go through speedy trial and people can see within the same space of time that he has received a sentence and he has ended up in Kuje prison. Whether the breakout is another matter entirely.
But let him get there first.
But let's get people in there within quick time. You will see that people will be a bit more responsive.
But my apologies, how significantly would that address anything? I mean, I agree with you. I mean, a good number of people would agree with you that if impunity continues to persist, I mean, how much difference can we make? Take the example, for instance, of this oil, what do we call it now?
Oil thieves.
Oil theft, over the years. Over the years, we heard that information from the NNPC GMD, that's NNPCL, that we've not known for 30-something years. I was overgasted and flabbergasted. Sorry, the reverse. So I mean, it was very, very interesting to hear that. So, is it possible in this day and age that such a thing would happen? I'm trying to find the correlation between the hands and the fingers in the tail and the fingers in the pot, because the crude oil is definitely something. I mean, you hear about super tankers. That's some pot.
No, you see, I mean, that is even a totally embarrassing thing, because the amount of crude that has been stolen
is more than what the country is exporting.
So wonder who is stealing. I mean, the owners begin to feel like the thieves, because if you are getting a little out of what is going out there, you begin to wonder who's the thief and who's the owner. But all that still goes back to and there's a lot of complicity involved in it.
Absolutely.
The military who are supposed to be defending it have been fingered. The officials of the IOCs who are pumping this crude out and can see there's a significant drop in the volumes being pumped and what is being received. Also know, and all over the world, there are ways of tracking and monitoring what you send, what you drill, and what reaches you eventually. So there's a lot of complicity in this. And that still goes back to what I'm saying, that if people are speedily punished for it, okay, now we found out who are the people responsible. There's an investigation that comes out quickly, and you can see a few people being committed to prison and not go to court and take one long adjournment after the other. And by the way, I'm not blaming the judges for the long adjournments, but we just need to find a lot more people to go into that system. Because I was in the Federal High Court recently, and I know in Lagos, the judges in the Lagos bench have over 1,000 cases on their dockets each. Live, active cases. So you wonder, how are you going to get a judge to deal
with such things,
with these things in depth?
Advocate, I know you don't want to blame the judges. Let me help you blame the judges. Let me boldly, publicly say that I blame the judges for the situation we are in Nigeria for a lot of things. Very simple reason. Look, it is the duty of lawyers to find technicalities in court to try to help their client. But it is also the duty, and I speak here as a jurist, it is also the duty of the judge to go beyond technicalities and apply common sense to say, is this man lying? Is he trying to get away with it? To judge. Denning said at the end of it all, it is common sense that trumps any technicality. Sometimes our judges, I don't know.
Just quoted?
You see, even when there's common sense being applied, there is a system that has to be followed, unfortunately. If I'm coming to court to say absolute nonsense, under the right of fair hearing, the court still has to listen to me and give me a chance to say my nonsense. So even if I'm saying absolute rubbish, it will hear me first before reaching a decision. Any decision that is made without that, some of the areas I have canvassed that I think would help us is that stop all these interlocutory appeals. Finish a case at one level before you go up to all those appeals. And those are areas where the law can be tweaked a bit, that is left to the legislature to say, no, we will not be allowing interlocutory appeals.
But I agree with you.
If a judge says, I have to hear him, and he hears all that quickly, he will still be done. But when a judge has 1,000 cases, there's no way he will finish all those cases.
I agree with you. What I'm saying is this. Every year we have the beginning of the judicial year. My position is that the Chief Justice of the Federation, the Minister for Justice, should sit down together and say, what is our present situation? We have judges with 1,000 dockets in their hand. We have this new trend, old or new trend, of people using technicalities to get away with crime. And what is the public feeling about it? We go back to vision. So therefore, what do we do about it? And I say these things without claiming credit for particular originality. It is something that's happened elsewhere in the world and in history, where they sat down to say, this is the problem we have, how do we deal with it? You see, all these things are social constructs. They're not mountains, they're monuments. If we decide at some point that no matter how complicated a case is, we have a time limit for it, by which a case will finish, so it's going to be. You have to speed things up. I argue, for example, the little things you can do. I argue that every court in Nigeria should have adjoining hospital or sick bay, given that people tend to fall sick when they have cases. So that let them not. And if they are sick, go to their cells and finish that case. Not because you're sick, you disappear. And there's another thing that I think is very important we look. We look at people who steal billion and they find them hundreds of thousands or millions. It doesn't make sense. I think one of the judicial reforms that should be done is that if somebody steals 1,000 naira, let us make sure we get back all the 1,000 naira.
With interest.
With interest. There you go. And if any other punishment is going to be extra, not that I've read cases where people, I look at it and say, but the person has stolen hundreds of millions. Why are you finding him so and so? I am not even clear, contrary to what we might think.
The law gives us
then we need to change that law. We need to change that law.
Who are the people that are going to change the laws? Is the politicians. So let's talk about them for a bit.
Yes.
I'm sorry, we're quickly running out of time. Mr. Kyoshu, I think this whole gale of I want to be president started in January of the outgoing year. And a number of people, of course, had declared, well, subliminally indicated interests. But it was like one person blew the lid open at the beginning of the year. And of course, we had so many declarations and I don't even have the words or the political lexicon to add all of these things.
Jamboree.
So where you stand, the Prof mentioned the other time that we all seem to be looking up.
Whereas we should be
paying a little more attention to what's happening closer to us. Let's start from there. As we, venture towards 2023 elections, we're looking up. Are we ignoring, or I don't have the second word, ignoring what's happening down there, overtly or covertly?
Definitely, like you said, there's a lot of attention paid to who is Mr. President or who becomes Mr. President, without checking who is going to be my local government chairman. Many of us don't even know who our local government chairman is till today. we don't bother about the elections because
I used to. Now I don't.
Yeah, so many of us just let it slide. And I think it is important to engage from that level. But of course, who becomes Mr. President also goes a long way in determining the body language you will read from the top. Because I believe the body language from the top always goes a long way in affecting how everybody behaves down the line. Once you see the man at the top is not going to take this, and he moves and acts decisively, everybody just falls in line. Yeah. And one clear example was the case of the sacking of the DSS Director General. When it was done speedily and immediately, everybody began to, you could see there was a shift in the atmosphere. Everybody began to take cover and were behaving. But as it seemed to relax again, then everybody went back to business business as usual. So we should pay attention to who becomes number one. It is critical because even if the man at the local government knows that the man at the top, and you see, talking about the administration of justice, I have to go back there for a minute. It's not rocket science, really. It's not. It can be done. It's not angels that will do it. It's human beings. Take the welfare of the judges first, and say every judge now, your salary is tied to that of the legislature, for instance. A high court judge earns the same thing as local government, House of Rep. Court of Appeal earns the same thing as House of National Assembly, senators, Supreme Court, and whatever you guys are earning, the judges will earn. It will reduce the propensity for any corruption to start with. Move to the next level and say, okay, now judges, we've had this before. Anybody that is now caught with his hand in any till will be sanctioned. But you are going home with enough. Let's stop all this.
Anyone whose hand is caught in the till will be tilted. Okay. Well, Prof, same issue of 2023. You've said it more than once that we seem to be looking more up than down. But do you blame the Nigerian who is more interested in what's happening at the top as opposed to what's happening closer to them? Because, hey, it would seem like over the years since like 1993, many people don't remember who was governor in 1993. Many people don't remember who was governor when they were growing up. They just remember, okay, this fellow was the president. Who even remembers the member of the House of Assembly representing them?
Did I ever know that?
The question, do I blame Nigerians? I know this is unpopular, but I actually do. As a matter of fact, I know people don't like to say it. We always like to talk about leadership. But the citizen, in terms of citizenry, is also a duty that many of us fail to absolve.
The office of the citizen.
The office of the citizen. I've said elsewhere, I wrote an essay some years ago, quite a long time ago, in which I said, on the day in which people are inaugurating the president and the governor, let individuals go into their room, take the mirror and inaugurate themselves. And say, I, the citizen, in these next 4 years, this is what's going to be my duty. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why I blame citizens. On a philosophical level, we've not really understood that citizenry is a duty, not just a right. And that is a fraud. This idea of thinking that I have the right to vote, I have the right to do it. No, it's actually I have a duty to vote, I have a duty to follow politics. And let me make it more unpopular. If I had my way, I think universal adult suffrage is a wrong move that we did. Rather than consider voting a right, I'll consider it a duty that will be tested. Let us treat, I argue, our voting card like a driver's license, in which you show that you actually understand it, and better still, if you pay your tax. So that when you reason like a proper stakeholder, not somebody that can be bought and sold for peanuts. One of the reasons why I blame the citizens is this. It is true. We tend to forget our local government and our state of assembly because really, most of them don't do anything. Let's be realistic. They're quietly inward. They are cutting deals with governors and presidents because we have these deferential societies. And let's be totally honest. Most of these people are stooges and cronies of those who are in power. So you can't really expect them to do anything when they just came out nominated. They have no track record or declared desire to be local government chairman for programs. So you can't expect magic from that. That is the truth. But if you go around the streets of any of your states, viewers in the country, today, even the most forsaken corner of the street, you see political posters there. And that's how you know how self-centered politicians are. Because when it comes to governance, they don't remember remote areas. But when it comes to politics and campaigning, they remember to get their posters there. So if citizens actually want to sit up, people should stop telling me, they don't even know their name. I tell them, open your eyes, go and read the poster. You will know the person that contested and make note of who won. So let's stop acting as if we don't even know. I think people need to sit up a bit as well.
Okay.
And by the same token, this is important. As we go near election, let people, as they're going to church and anywhere and must to go and pray today, let them actually say, God, please help me to vote the right person. Let us commit to ourselves to know that there are some candidates where you look at them with the fear of God in your mind. You should know if this person is votable, should be voted or not.
That raises another question, Mr. Kyoshun. It will seem like people are more sentimental in taking decisions, especially along this civic duty, as opposed to being pragmatic, factual, and all of that. What's your take on that? And also, since we're running off, looking ahead, what are the considerations you would propose that people should make
for 2020?
Sadly, I agree with you on that point of that people are sentimental. We always look at it that, is he from my tribe? Is he from my local government? Has he helped me in time past? Beyond looking at what is his ability to deliver. And part of what I believe we should be looking at now in choosing who will lead us in 2023 is that, does this person have the requisite experience? Because you have to look at a person's CV to see what he has done. How did he fare on the job? At federal, is he doing work on a state level? It's sometimes different, a lot different from what you've been able to do at the national level. I will begin to look at what has this person achieved at the national level. Has he seen the depths of the problems we are dealing with? Has he responded to any of those things before? How did he respond to it? Now, what is the person's personal morality or integrity that we're dealing with? Because it is what that person stands for that begins to help you to lead a whole people, right or wrong. But if you don't stand for anything, you will fall for everything yourself.
Oh dear.
Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to look at all the issues we wanted to look at.
So we can't even fall for anything, right?
Extrajudicial killings is also in the forefront of the things that happened in 2022 in light of the burning of Deborah in the north and the recent killing of Bolanle Rahim. Unfortunately, we don't have time to look at that, as well as a number of other things. But that is the nature of live television. Unfortunately, we have to call it quits right now. And I just need to take your last word. Looking forward to 2023, in light of all the things some of the things we have discussed that happened in 2022, in one sentence.
Well, I hope citizens become more prudent and protagonist.
Short and sharp.
Well, while we hope for a better tomorrow, we need to put in our own efforts. Make sure you vote the right candidate. Make sure you are also working with integrity.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dapo Akinyosun, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, as well as Anthony Killer, Professor of Strategy and Development and author Epistles, Reflections on Nigeria. Thank you very much for coming and sharing this time with us on this very special day, the last day of 2022.
Very good to be here.
And you at home, we'll be right back with another interesting conversation to end the year.
Thank you for staying with us. Conversations around this NITDA bill started as far back as 2021, which, among other things, aims at changing NITDA from an IT development agency to a regulator of the information technology industry ecosystem. Now, according to the act creating NITDA, it serves as the agency of the federal government saddled with the responsibility of developing and regulating IT in Nigeria, not IT internship. information technology. It's empowered by its Enabling Act to create a framework for the planning, research, development, standardization, application, coordination, monitoring, evaluation, and regulation of information technology practices in Nigeria. I even did a check on the functions of NITDA specifically, and I found out that one of the things that it's supposed to do is also to help with security in the country. But from August 2021 to date, no regulatory strides have been made by the proposed amendment, which has reportedly faced opposition from stakeholders, including the Nigeria Bar Association section on business law, NBA, SBL. Of course, several industry stakeholders have described the attempt by the National Assembly Joint Committee on ICT and Cybercrime to stage a public hearing last week, Friday, as an ambush to hurriedly pass a bill which all practitioners have repeatedly asked the National Assembly to throw away due to its controversial nature. Let's have a conversation on this with Chizaram Uchaga, who is CEO, Climb Technologies Limited, as well as Chibuike Good News, CEO, Doches. Both of them join us virtually with Victor Olatunde, who is founder of SalesPlat. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let me begin with you, Mr. Uchaga. What's your take on this bill? Are you for it or against?
Well, thank you for having me. I think the issue with the bill, especially with the Nigerian Bar Association, is that they have some concerns largely around regulatory overlap. So I think NITDA knows, has a point in what they are trying to do in terms of regulation, because every government will try to put proper regulation in place to prevent bad actors from doing things they are not supposed to harm the populace, whether it's in terms of cyber security, fraud, or the likes. So largely what people like stakeholders like the NBA and other groups are looking at is how the bill will align with the Startup Act, which was launched and signed recently. They're also concerned about how to make sure that it doesn't encroach into existing regulations like that set up NCC, Standard Organizations of Nigeria, FCCPC, the NFIU and the likes. And then they also want to avoid cases of multiple taxation. So if it's a new bill that is going to cover areas that these existing bodies are not covering, and they are not going to impose heavy taxation or multiple taxation, I think most people will be fine with that. So I think we need to see it from both sides and address it objectively.
Okay. Mr. Uchaga, you didn't answer his question directly. He said, are you for or against this bill?
That's an interesting question. So like I said, regulation is good. And like if you monitor the global news, you hear what's happened in the crypto market where FTX collapsed, and that was largely because the SEC didn't have proper regulations in place. So
Mr. Chaga,
these guys went to
Mr. Chaga, let's begin with a yes or no, and then we can take it further. We can have more.
Okay, I'll say a yes. I'll say a yes. With
you are for the bill.
You are for the bill.
That it shouldn't overlap into existing acts.
No, we'll talk about the other details later. So yes, you are for the NITDA bill.
Okay.
Mr. Good News, what's your own take? Let's begin with for or against.
I didn't hear that.
I said, can you hear me, Mr. Good News? Can you hear me now?
Oh dear.
Okay.
Me?
Mr. Good News, Mr. Chibuike Good News.
Yeah, for me, I have reservations about the bill.
So you are against?
First of all, is the fact that...
We'll come to the details. So you are against?
I'm against.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm against.
Okay. Mr. Olatunde, what's your own take?
Please don't tell me you are striding the two.
Wait, is this a definite vote?
No. We'll come to the details later. But let's just take your opinion so we know, how to structure the rest of it. Mr. Olatunde, Victor Olatunde, founder of Salesplat. What's your position?
Well, I'm actually for the bill, but of course with some
modifications. Okay, so 2-1. But let me come back to you, Mr. Ochaga. Some of the understanding, or rather communication that you're sending across is, look, their regulation is good. And of course, everyone would agree with you. But is that to say we didn't have regulations before now? The startup bill that you mentioned, largely tech biased, is not new, all right? Beg your pardon, that law is new. But the NCA, the National Communications Act, is not. And several others like that, they are not new. So there are those who would wonder whether or not there aren't some measure of representation, of regulation over time before now.
Well, like if you look at, for example, like the bone of contention also is also like NCC, because a lot of people want to avoid duplication of what NCC is doing. If you look at how NCC largely operates, they are largely more bent towards telecom companies like the mobile operators and the likes, ISP providers and all. But you have the ICT space is very broad. So I think what NITDA is trying to do is to kind of capture or structure regulations around those new and evolving areas that NCC is not typically covering. So that's why I'm saying that what needs to be done is to have proper stakeholder engagement. I think the outcry happened when they tried to go to the National Assembly and all of that. But the thing is, give people time, let a lot of voices be heard. And even consumer education is key. So people need to see NITDA doing more work, telling people what is existing, like infographics. They do that a lot in the West. So they are bringing out a new bill. They are putting out simple infographics. They are doing TV, radio campaigns saying this is what is existing and this is what we are trying to do.
But the question, one of the questions, Mr. Chaga, just 1 second, Mr. Chaga. One of the questions that came to my mind personally about this issue is, I looked at the functions of NITDA as is. And the question on my mind is, has NITDA fulfilled its primary objectives before being saddled with extra work? In your opinion, has that happened?
Take that again, it wasn't very clear.
I said, personally, my first question when I came across this information is, how come we're asking to give NITDA more responsibilities, more Herculean, if I could use the word, responsibilities, when the primary objectives of setting up the agency in the first place, there are those who wonder whether or not NITDA has fulfilled its primary objectives for which it was created in the first place?
NITDA has been there for quite a while, so they've been largely operating as a development agency, right? So I know there are quite a number of initiatives, like one where they recently partnered with Coursera to try and create skills and trainings for Nigerians to be prepared to take on roles. So instead of outsourcing software roles to people in India, Nigeria can be like the next area that people can do that. So in fairness to them, they are trying. I can't say they are perfect. No organization is, whether public or private.
That's a very, very interesting way to put it, Mr. Shaga. But let me, of course, there are those who wonder, why did we need eyepiece imported when we could have done, for instance, something like that locally? But let me come to Mr. Good News. What's your own take? I mean, you said you are not for this bill, and of course, it's your right to say so. Well, exactly what are your issues about the bill?
Well,
Mr. Chibuike, that's for Mr. Chibuike. Good News, please.
Okay.
Mr. Good News, are you with us?
I would say, yeah, I have interacted with NITDA in different aspects over a number of years. I would say NITDA has been doing a good job in terms of encouraging the development of ICT, also the startup bill, and the other things they have done. But moving into regulation, I think that is more like shifting the focus, because ICT development we still a long way to go. We still have a lot that needs to be done, and the capacity to do that has not been reached. And I still need that to be more of encouraging the growth instead of coming to regulate it, because I operate in the industry, and we come from this space of regulation is different from the person that is encouraging you. So the person that is setting up controls is different from the person that is encouraging growth. And if growth has to happen, which is what NITDA has been doing before now, and then mixing that with regulation is going to be conflicting. And also, just as the other people in the industry have also reacted. Now, if I start seeing a NITDA who I see as a partner in growth or a partner in development, now start to put checkmates and start to put checks and balances and regulation, it changes the narrative, changes the whole narrative. And apart from the fact that you are going into what NCC was doing, you're also going into what other parastatals are doing. You're also removing that confidence which the nascent ICT or technology industry is having in you. I remember when we used to have, when NITDA used to organize events, and all of us are interested in coming because there's a Friday event. All of us are always interested in coming. Now, can the police organize events and all of us come? Can the SSS organize such events and all of us come? No, they won't. We won't. We'll just leave them. And people have looked at the government from a distance and say if they are serious, we join them. And NITDA has brought the private sector or the ICT sector close to them to say, hey, come, let's see what you're doing and let's encourage you. And people have been willing to come up to NITDA and say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going. This is the aspect we are going. So, and NITDA has been able to make, to an extent, connect them and also provide support as they could. Now, the day NITDA changes to regulation, then we see a new reaction. And we're already seeing the reaction from industry stakeholders. So they are talking right now and resisting. The day you fully become a regulatory agency, they'll keep away from you. So except I may see this policy as probably authorities in the ICT sector are all regulation in this space is around finances and making you pay bills, and which is what probably someone would think is reason behind this. Let's cut the chase, but I think that's the reason behind this. They want some payments.
Oh dear, we keep losing Mr. Good News. Well, Mr. Lassende, you say that you are for this bill.
I don't see that to be.
Just hold on, Mr. Good News. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Lassende, you say you are for this bill, but some industry players, such as Alton, say that they already are paying about 30 different levies, and this bill, well, when passed into law, will increase, if not when, will increase the number of levies and taxes which players are paying already.
Yeah, so I think, it's often a dicey situation when you talk about regulation, right? Right now, there are a lot of taxes that I think even the recent CAMA, and even quite a number of agencies or quite a number of regulators are bringing, to the table. And yeah, we're going to have more of that. So, but by the time we take a look at different side of this conversation, take a look at what the loan apps are doing, take a look at what a number of fraudulent platforms are doing, and almost unchecked. So it makes you want to argue that, yeah, we need some level of regulation. at some level. So what I would say is this: I feel that NITDA, because I went to the draft myself. I went through all the pages of the draft. I remember, sending a chat to one of the directors in NITDA. I'm like, see, you know what? So there are some clauses here that doesn't look like it, right? And I even mentioned the fact that, I can see you're putting incubation, you're trying to put in some kind of what you can call sandbox programs in place that is going to help development. And so, sandbox is there. Some incubation fund is part of the whole of that draft of that bill. But that is not enough. And there's some things that NITDA has not done well enough, especially around supporting some of these startups. So I would say that, yes, maybe it is not yet time for them to become one. Maybe they need to do more in terms of putting the right structure for brands to be able to develop under them, irrespective of them becoming regulatory, right? But there is still a need for some level, even if it's mild, regulation around the IT sector, especially the tech, the development. But I was one of those that actually contributed. I mean, I checked the startup bill. We're happy with the startup bill. I mean, but some people are still against that to an extent. But we feel that, in the place where there's no regulation, people will they'll do things, the way they want. And at the end of the day, a lot of people are going to lose money. And I mean, as we speak right now, a lot of people are crying across the country for a lot of fraudulent platforms and all that doing stuff. So I feel, yes, maybe we can now look into some clauses and some elements of these bills and say, okay, you know what, let us take this out. Let us take this out. Let us take this out. Let us reduce this. I don't see a reason why a new startup should pay some levy for using the internet, for hosting a website here until they're about 1 or 2 years old, right? So we cannot start adjusting the clauses to say, you know what, you shouldn't start paying this until you're about 2 or 3 years of proving your market already. You shouldn't be paying this until you're here, just like Kama now does, to say that, okay, don't do any taxes until you're about 100 million naira thereabouts in revenue. So we can start looking at some of those, not totally to say, okay, the regulation isn't okay, but can we start looking at some that are going to overlap and remove them? Overall, I think we still need to have some level of, and for some of us that are close to the masses, we build solutions that are facing the masses and see what they're going through. So that would be my contribution around that, because I just feel, we should look into all the elements and take out the ones that are not effective or that are going to be overlapping, but we can't just discard the whole idea altogether. Yeah.
Mr. Lasunde, if I may find out from you, which agency is now the regulator of the IT ecosystem?
Sorry, I didn't hear that clearly, please. Can you come
Which
again?
agency is currently in charge of the IT ecosystem in Nigeria?
So in terms of development, right, you have NITDA in terms of growth, right? But, and this is one major challenge that we actually have in the country entirely. I think this is now bringing structure to your ecosystem. You can't really point to one particular regulator to say they are the one in charge of IT. NCC is really, in quotes, not for IT. It's majorly for, for telecoms and mobile operators, right? So you can say that we have any
I think NCC covers ICT. NCC covers ICT. And there's also the ministry that also does that.
Yes.
Wow.
So if this bill is now seeking to turn NITDA into a regulator, how many regulators will there be in the industry?
I didn't hear that.
If this bill seeks to turn NITDA into the regulator, how many regulators would there be in the industry?
So personally, I even think we don't need more agencies or more ministries. I think we already have enough.
But you say you're for the bill.
So I think what we should do, is to take a look at how can we spread the tentacles of some to cover the gaps, right? That is arguably one of the ways one could have gone at it, right? But if we've not seen that happen, and NITDA is saying, okay, this needs to be done, maybe eventually what gets to happen is every one of those stakeholders and those agencies really come together to actually structure this out. I think we're seeing that play out in terms of finance, where SEC is doing some, and then you're seeing the CBN do some, and it's looking like things are coming together. maybe that might be the approach to eventually go through and say, okay, NITDA here, NCC here, what can be done further on this. But until that happens, we can't say we're throwing it out or we're saying that it doesn't have to be done. So it's just that someone has to cover for those lapses, and it's really getting bigger by the day.
Yeah. Well, most certainly, it's already very big. I mean, it's not like something that is just starting. It's already an overwhelming ecosystem, because, I mean, if you just made an attempt, Mr. Olatunde, to place a value on the ICT sector in Nigeria, I'm almost certain they can pay Nigeria's budgets 20 times per year. But let me come back to Mr. Good News. Now, Mr. Good News, your conversations around these issues, I mean, you've talked about, who is the coordinating agency for IT and all of those things. There are those who say, okay, I mean, you've also heard it said, NCA is for the telecom sector, and the telecom sector is a lot bigger than that. NITDA is, perhaps it's in charge of ensuring, the website and all those things, especially the .ng domain and all of that. There has been a proposal, I don't quite recollect what the name is right now, for a clearinghouse of sorts for the ICT sector in Nigeria. In what way, if you remember such, Mr. Chibuike Good News, is that going to help? In what way is there a need for such a clearinghouse for the ICT sector in Nigeria?
I think the ICT sector in Nigeria has different aspects. If you want to have a clearinghouse, first of all, there needs to be some house cleaning in terms of structurally organizing the system, and then we can implement a clearinghouse. And there have been activities around that, even the private sector themselves trying to also regulate, put some structures in place to make things work. But the idea of a clearinghouse, I don't think that should rest on NITDA, because NITDA's role still remains to grow the industry and to make practitioners. That should be what NCC should do. Or if you want to have a new regulator, then we now have to change some of the functions that NCC is handling and move it to a new regulator, so we don't have duplication. Because what is going to happen now is the day you open shop as a technology company, NITDA will hit you with bills, NCC will hit you with bills, different kinds of people will hit you with bills. And now these bills do not take cognizance of whether the technology company has even survived or has a trajectory. They only want you to pay. Now, if you pay all these things, you probably not open shop. And now one of the things that will happen is, there's one thing about technology companies. Some of them run 2-3 years without making profit, and they just be running cash, and you see a lot of transactions going on, but they are not profitable. Now, if regulators see those things as reason for them to implement regulation, which in my opinion here is more of money. If they ask you to pay this, pay that, pay this, by the end of it, you probably would not want to even open shop in Nigeria.
Well, Mr. Ochaga, without necessarily sounding like the spokesperson for NITDA or the NCC or any, there are those who would wonder, for instance, some people would probably just be hearing about NITDA for the first time. Meanwhile, for as long as they use their phones, they have one conversation or the other with the NCC. Case in point, the QoS, is something that many Nigerians are, they are aware of. Quality of service, they can complain and all those things. Some will probably just be hearing about NITDA now. You've said, of course, that they have done a lot of things so far. Now, there are many who have identified at least 9 sections of this bill and 24 areas or thereabouts that this bill overlaps with just one law, the NCA, We're not talking about some others. We're not talking about the FCCPC law. We're not talking about the law that set up the Nigerian Broadcast Commission. We're not talking about the law that sets up the the Nigeria Film and Video Censors Board. All of these things have one thing or the other to do with IT in the country. So one is wondering, since there is a need for a global regulator of sorts for IT in Nigeria, Mr. Ochega, there is that conversation. I think I asked that question earlier, of a sort of clearinghouse council on digital, innovation or whatever. I don't quite have the name. I don't know if anyone on the panel has it. Is it something that has to reside in NITDA when we have a Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy to which everyone in the sector reports?
Well, like I rightly mentioned earlier, the sector is broad, and I think some of the people on the panel have alluded to that as well. You see that NCC, like we've all discussed here, it kind of was set up largely targeting the telcos, right? But the IC space keeps evolving by the day. So I think what, like I said, NITDA is trying to do is to try and say, okay, as this evolves, these are what we need to do. So obviously, in the process of doing that, they must have rubbed off wrongly on quite a number of people. I'm in the sector, so I also understand all those challenges. I'm not oblivious to that. So what I'm saying is that when new policies come in, or when there's a move to make an organization transit from what they initially set up to do to become a regulator, I think these are opportunities for us to take a step back and say, okay, what arms of the National Assembly or policy organizations or CSOs can help analyze the existing acts and say, okay, if there's indeed a need for a new regulatory body, these are the areas that should be covered. So when they come out and say, oh, we're going to regulate this, people know that, okay, there's no overlap and there's no conflict.
But however, Mr. Ochega, my apologies, my sincere apologies for butting in. There are those who are wondering whether or not there aren't some surreptitious intentions. Why? Because unlike most cases, I could be wrong, but unlike most cases, first there is a Senate Committee on ICT and Cybercrime, then there is a House of Representatives Committee on ICT and Cybercrime. They meet and then they have their agreement here, have their agreement there, then they come together. But now, so far, it would seem like there is some way, some intention to speed up the process to circumvent some of the issues that we are raising now. Consequently, the joint committees of ICT and the joint committee of cybercrime already agreed. So some are wondering that there are intentions actually to speed up this process and, run over some of the issues that are being raised here. Would you agree with them?
That's right.
Well, I would recommend that more time is given. I don't think anything that's worth doing should be rushed, right? I think more time should be given for more stakeholders to give their inputs and an objective policy is put in place before any regulation is set up or any new regulatory body is set up. So I don't think these things should be rushed because they take time. The sector is very broad. There are so many concerns. There are so many sectors that are concerned that current acts are being stepped into. So I don't think this is something that can be done in a few days. So obviously time needs to be given. And if that ample time is given, then I think most of these issues will be sorted out. Okay.
There's a question I asked you the other time, Mr. Ochega, and I'm going to take that same question to Mr. Chibuike Good News about whether or not NITDA has fully fulfilled its mandate. I'm on the NITDA website now, and from the Director General's desk is a segment where I'm at, and it quotes, the priorities of the agency are developmental regulation, digital literacy and skills, solid infrastructure, service infrastructure, digital services development and promotion, software infrastructure, digital society and emerging technologies, as well as indigenous content and adoption. Mr. Good News, in your opinion, would you say NITDA has significantly, convincingly fulfilled these priorities?
Not at all.
I would say they have made milestones, but those objectives cannot be fulfilled in the present system or in the present day Nigeria, especially where you see that most of the technologies we consume in Nigeria are imported. In the IT space, is one of the biggest fleets of foreign currency, because you pay for servers abroad, you pay for all kinds of things. And these are some of the things that with the pressure on Naira, they could have been domesticated. And these are aspects that would have been big opportunity for NITDA to develop. And in terms of the IT infrastructure, you also see that they've made a milestone, but they have not fulfilled that. And I don't think they'll even do that even in the next 10 years with the way things are working. We probably see NITDA having accolade for fulfillment if we see that the revenue coming from ICT, apart from telcos, or I don't mean telco, if the revenue coming from ICT can compete with other sectors, and also the fact that if we can have homegrown technologies that can compete globally and foreign revenue. Let me give, for example, in Asia, they have businesses that are built for overseas, and those businesses make billions of dollars and return them to home country, and they contribute to both GDP, creation of jobs, and taxes as well, which is the main thing government is pursuing after. I know that these bills are around that. Now, if we can build environment that make it possible for Nigerian businesses to grow globally and then survive and compete globally, then we know that NITDA is on the way. There's one company I know that is the biggest unicorn in Croatia. And one of the things I see there is that company is building some of the vast, even in Nigeria, even in different parts of Africa. And that Croatia is not a big country, but that company is flying the flag. Now, if we could have similar businesses in Nigeria that will fly the flag of Nigeria, probably providing some unique things globally, and then all that revenue coming to Nigeria, then we can see that NITDA is doing a good job. Then in terms of skill development, I think they're getting up right now, and they're moving in the right direction, especially with the partnerships they're having, which is to build the skill set of ICT. Because the first step in ICT development is the fact that there's more people, more practitioners, and more people that we can export. One of the things that we're doing in Nigeria now is that we're exporting our human resources. People, you can say it's that, but we're just exporting human resources. So one of the key things that could happen is how can we harness these people that are leaving the country to either repatriate revenue, or repatriate technology, or repatriate skills, or repatriate development that will help the country. Now, if we see those kind of things happening, then we'll see that NITDA has really, if it is done by NITDA especially, then we see that NITDA has really made that. And especially the cost of internet is still high here. And one of the key things you see is that as a business in Nigeria, if you want reliable internet, I don't mean 1,500 naira internet. If you want reliable internet, it's still expensive. So if businesses can reach a point where the cost of internet has actually gone down, and probably is because of the development that's coming from NITDA, then we know that the goals are being achieved. But as it is now, they are trying in certain aspects, but the industry is quite big, just as Chizaram has said, and it's just like a drop in the ocean. What they're doing is just like a drop in the ocean.
Mr. Lasunde, Part 5, Section 15 authorizes NITDA to provide permits and licenses for operators in Nigeria's information and tech sector. But recall that to be able to operate in Nigeria, such companies must register with the CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission, while fintechs have to obtain CAC licenses as well as licenses from the central bank. So if this bill were to go through, how many licenses would an IT company require to be able to operate in Nigeria?
So personally, when I read the first draft of the NITDA bill, that was one of the ones that I actually circled and told. I mean, I sent my own review and I told them, I don't think that it doesn't look like it makes sense to me right now. I mean, around the possibilities of what that's going to be. So right now we have a lot of fintechs that ideally should have maybe done better than what they're doing. That the only reason they're not getting to that point is because maybe they're not able to obtain the licenses yet. I mean, I'm talking about on the fintech side of things. The licenses are very expensive, very high. It sometimes seems like maybe it's just those things are just been meant for the rich. Now, it would have been good if there's some kind of maybe background funding or a sandbox experience where I don't have the license yet, but I can still operate for the next 3-4 years under some kind of overview or some kind of purview of someone checking without me having to get his license. Because by the time you take a look at the average Nigerian startup, I mean, these guys literally just have $50,000 pre-seed, $200,000, $500,000 pre-seed. I mean, at most, recently we're having $2 million pre-seed. But the cost of a license, maybe even with the CBN for fintech, for example, you're looking at an average of $500,000, something $250 for the PST, and all. Those are
Mr.
large.
Latunde, pause. Did you say $500,000 to get the permit?
No. I'm saying you need to go and check the amount of money it takes to get some CBN license for fintech. They're not cheap.
There's one that's over 200 million naira now. There's one that encourages companies that are coming from outside of Nigeria to get license easier than companies that are inside Nigeria. You check it. So for some of those provisions, it's easier for somebody that's probably registered in US or one of these tax havens to get license in Nigeria than it is for a local company to get license in Nigeria.
It's a serious issue we're dealing with here. So we can't just. So when I saw that an average startup has to take another license, I told them you have to remove this because it's going to hinder growth. Now, if you're telling me come and take a license after 4 years of posting profits or posting reasonable revenue, I'm not saying posting GMV because what many of these what CBN and all that is saying is actually gross merchandise value. Some kind of transactional flow. Not really profit from these companies, right? So if a company is going to start taking a license to operate, then they should have already operated in a sandbox or given them some time to even test it out first. I know how many startups have failed in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, I can really see some of them that we won grants together from one or two, maybe organizations and other, are not even floating right now. So now leveraging that kind of license on them at the beginning ain't gonna fly. So we can't afford to let that fly. Okay. I mean, an average person to at least start at some level, but you can put some kind of oversight. I'm okay with that. Well, okay, where maybe just like some cooperatives, right? In the cooperative system, you're able to do your operation and then post report. If they put a kind of reporting operation where if a technology or a startup can start and then report to an organization.
While you're talking about, while it's lofty to talk about, startups, I'm just, for me, what is important is the long term. There are many, many underserved communities in Nigeria as far as ICT products and services are concerned. For instance, the elections is right ahead of us, right? And there are those who are wondering, already we are struggling with 3G in some communities. In some areas, they don't have 2G. And we're talking about voting, electronic transmission of results. These things are all ICT related. So one is wondering if we're still having, it's the question, Mr. Ochaga, it's the same question that I asked you the other time about how significantly we can say information technology has developed in Nigeria in the light of the issues that we need it for. I mean, you are almost as disturbed by about the fact that we can't vote electronically as many Nigerians are in an environment where we have spent this is the 21st year of telecoms alone in Nigeria. And of course, we've had ICT a long time before that. I mean, telecoms in the way we have it now, mobile telephony, the way we have it now, we've had it for so many years. So one is wondering if NITDA is as efficient, as active as it is supposed to be, will we be where we are now? But anyway, gentlemen, we are completely out of time. And this is a conversation starter. As Mr. Uchaga, as you said, we have to deal with this a lot more. For now, we have to thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of our conversation. Chizara Muchaga is Chief Executive Officer, Climb Technologies Limited. Thank you so much for your time. Chibuke Good News, the CEO, Dolces. We appreciate your time, as well as Victor Olatunde, founder of SalesPlat. Gentlemen, again, thank you. Truly appreciate your being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Compliments of the season.
Wish you same. Okay. After all of that talk, I think I need some therapy. Yeah.
You will get some therapy in just a moment.
Okay. I'll wait for that.
This is going to be a very interesting conversation indeed, because what I see here is music as therapy. You know,
I'm sorry.
at the end of the last segment, Ayo said that he needed therapy after that segment, and I said to him he was going to get therapy soon.
You know, there were one of the questions I would love to ask our guests. So, this is a personal research I conducted.
Yes.
Back in time, growing up in broadcasting, I'd take a trip by public transport from Fadeyi bus stop in Lagos to Ikeja. Depending on the music the driver is listening to, I knew what kind of ride I was going to get. If I was hearing the guy playing reggae music, I know what to expect on the trip. If I'm listening to old school Fuji, I know what to expect. But if I'm listening to contemporary Fuji by, sorry, I know what to expect. If I'm, so I want to know if that's therapy.
Well, if you know what to expect from the music you're listening to.
No, what to expect from the driver.
From the driver, hey. But some people listen to all kinds of music.
Yes. You can't be a broadcaster and not listen to all kinds of music.
So it's interesting to know that music is not only cherished as a form of entertainment, but these days it has clinical relevance. Are you aware that sometimes surgeons actually play music to their patients before they operate on them? And they say that the music has some effect on their patients. Well, I can't interpret all that, but I have two musicologists in the studio who are going to tell us a lot more about that. I mean, how can I want to go under the knife and you're playing me some classical music and you tell me it will soothe me? Nothing can soothe me at this point, I promise you.
That music particularly gives me headaches.
I'm going under the knife. Forget it. Caleb Eguero.
Thank you, man.
Good morning.
Good morning, man.
Abiodun Ibiyo. Good morning.
Good morning, man.
Both musicologists.
Yes, man.
First of all, who is a musicologist?
Oh, thank you, man. Nice having me. A musicologist is someone that has studied music formally, not just gifted, but has gone through the process and the procedure of learning the art of music from the four walls of a university. Because we have a lot of people that are talented with music, but they're not trained formally. So a musicologist is someone that's been trained formally to understand music and its implications on people and the society. And how music is used within context.
Oh, That's why you can tell us what kind of effect any kind of music is going to have on any human being, depending on the circumstance.
When you were talking about the surgeon playing music, it was nothing. One day, anyway.
What kind of music can the surgeon play me when I'm about to go under the knife that will make me happily go under the knife?
No, already you're already on the knife.
No, I'm not there yet. They're about to win me.
Well, truth be told, it's not a direct effect. It's an indirect effect. The way our mind is structured and the way our body is configured, to go through that process of going through surgery, it entails a lot of mental appliances and the mental approaches. So what music does is to visit you indirectly, to keep you calm. Because when you are agitated, the procedure for the surgery becomes longer and becomes painful. So what music does is to quiet you a bit so that you can be relaxed and not be tensed. So you take your mind off the knife and the pains that you're going through and focus you on sound. And the way we're structured by God is that we respond to sound in a very different way. Sound has a way of soothing you, calming you down.
So that is what you play in Buganda when I'm about to go to
that context. That's why I spoke about context. Yeah. It has the wrong context of the use of that kind of music. For surgery, something that is quiet, something that is calm, something that is reflective, that makes you think. And
classical.
Yeah, classical music does that very well. Not more of the contemporary.
Mr. Ibiya, you're nodding and nodding away. You're nodding away. Yeah. Yes, he's got it right.
Yeah. Basically, there's no one who wants to go through surgery that will not be anxious. And the doctors will need that person to be relaxed. So that, like he said, so that they can successfully carry out the operation and it won't be longer. And coming back to heal will also be better or faster because of that music. The person's mind will definitely be taken away from the activities around. Unconscious, like you said, it's indirect. The person will just not be able to explain that. I'm just relaxed.
I'm at peace.
I'm at peace.
Exactly.
So that's it. Yes, he's not seeing the knife. He keeps saying under the knife. There's no knife at that point. He's not seeing the knife. He or she was aware of the knife before. They will create it sometimes without you knowing.
Is that in any way related to hypnosis?
Well, I would not directly say that because what the doctors are about to achieve, they are trying to help the person. They are trying to heal this person and they don't want anything to obstruct the process. So it's just calming the person down, not like hypnotizing to do something different. They have a goal that is also positive on the person.
Okay. Now, he spoke about, playing certain songs in context. And I've heard inventors, surgeons, creators of all kinds of things, they seem to pay a lot more attention to classical music. Why?
Well,
what can the classical music do that Kiss Daniel cannot do?
Okay, well, music is way back. We can't go into the history right now, but you will agree that every form of music eventually came out from, and classical music is way ahead of some of this other music that we are really familiar with, the popular music. I think it all started way back. I think there's this thing called Mozart effect and all. Yeah, so that was the theory behind using classical, most especially for therapy. I think blues is also seen as, basically, classical music is structured music, it's serious music. It's not just done anyhow. Even your posture when you are doing the song, it has to be in a particular way when you are doing classical. So it's done to suit and it's relaxed, it's soft, it's peaceful. Even the sound, the round tone that must be produced when the song, even if, for instance, if it's an instrumental, everything has to be properly played it will make you relax. There's no way you hear classical music that you
One
will
of
feel
these
that
days, you're going to sit us down and tell us what part of the brain directly does that sound particular instrument go.
Okay.
Well, Caleb.
Yes, sir.
There are, of course, different kinds of music.
Sure.
You talked about context the other time. Please, let us remove ourselves from the surgery room.
All right, good.
Okay. And and make more functional use of music. Okay. There's been a lot of music this season.
Yeah.
People just, go places, and always listening to music in the car. Some just want to forget everything, they play their favorite kind of music. Does music really help people to forget their problems?
Yeah, it does.
So music is a drug?
Yeah.
Oh.
We call something music medicine. But the truth be told is that not just any kind of music can do that. How it is put together was the way it works is that music happens at 3 levels: body, soul, spirit, or spirit, soul, body. The intention of the music has a way of affecting the listener of the music. What did I tend to achieve when I was putting the music together? Like you spoke about classical music. Everything about classical music is intended, not happenstance. I intend that I'm going to play this flute at this bar.
Especially because it is written.
It is written, so you can see the music pictorially. You can see it in pictures, not just in abstract. Pictures, okay, these come here. It's like you're building, it's like you're plotting a graph. So music has a bit of medicine attached to it. Now, when we talk about music and memory, and how does music help the average person to forget about the past? Also, music can also remind you of the past, but it can make you forget painful experiences of the past. Because when music is being played, something happens to you in your brain. Dopamine is being released. And that's the pleasure side. Anytime you are engaged in any activity that gives you pleasure, dopamine is released. It's a cell in your mental faculty. And that is what makes you, the more you get hooked up with music, it takes you further from the pains of the past, but not just any kind of music. So music has that ability to make you forget the pains of the past by telling you, because music also preaches, prophesies, tells you of what is coming. There are better days ahead of you. So you see that's why you see varieties of song and genres of music have different way they are being written. Some music are more of prophecy, tell you good things about. So by engaging those kind of music, irrespective of their style, either classical, jazz, takes you up to the future. So in a way, there's a departure from the past into the future. So you have something to expect, irrespective of what you have had in the past. So you can look up for something better in the future. So music can be a medicine to take you out of past experiences that are not pleasant.
Mr. Bia, why is it that most times music is associated with joy, with happiness? You are sad, you go and play music, and it lifts your mood.
You lost your job.
You play music. Why is it associated with happiness?
Well,
joy.
Every human being is created to live, and everyone wants to live. You want to, and even no matter how bad every situation is, there is this underlying tone that everybody wants to be happy.
Yeah.
Now, music is the only thing that can help you express even your sadness. Because there is this fact that you don't want that sadness. You want it out. There is nothing that can transport that thing out of your system other than music. That's why even when people die, I know a tribe in this, where they will come and sing and do some kind of singing at even burial ceremony, is to also cushion the effect of sadness. So basically, because everybody wants to live and joy is the main thing about life, so music is that transport that will help you do that.
Do you think, asking the same question in a different way, do you think people understand the use of music, or rather purposeful use of music, as opposed to just pleasurable use of music?
Well, yes and no. Sometimes people do, and sometimes they don't. But they still use that music to achieve that thing unconsciously. I usually say that music is like something that can be to have every human as self-therapy. Even unconsciously, some people when they are just sad, they are probably not even educated. They have particular songs that they do play, and before you know it, they just realize they are fine again. That's why sometimes they idolize some kind of artist because of the kind of song and the way the song help them.
Because it resonates with them.
Exactly. They may not know, but they just do. And sometimes some people do. But I believe that the percentage of people who don't know, who don't consciously use it, are more.
You agree with him?
Yeah. People use music for different reasons. But like I said about intention,
play music for different reasons. Whether or not they use it
or play it for different matter. Intention is key for any music that you want to listen to. What's the intention of the composer of such works? It goes a long way. It's not seen in the realm of the physical. Like for instance, Fela kind of music, a lot of people are glued to Fela's kind of music. Fela intended his music to say something. So even the music can be saying what you are not even hearing to you, and that is where music goes beyond your ears right now into your soul. Fela said a lot of things in his music that he didn't say. So the question is, now what's the intention of the music? To lift, to send us down, or to take us up? And so whatever music you find your hands on is doing something to your spirit and to your soul. So
whether you know it or not.
Whether you know it or not, no, that's the truth. Whether you know it or not, because two things make the music happen: the sound and the words. We are both cognitive and we are both emotive. So either the music gets to your logic part or it gets to your emotional part, it stays with you. So there's no room for I don't know what I'm doing, because the tunes of the sound you play keep resonating with you even after you stop playing such works. So definitely my concept and my understanding and my philosophy is driven into your heart without knowing.
So I'll ask you this difficult question.
Okay.
Are there certain kinds of music you shouldn't listen to when you're driving?
Yes, please. There's some kind of music you shouldn't listen to.
Here we go.
Yeah. There's some kind of music.
What type of music?
Okay. Number one, when music is structured, we have what we call tempo. And the tempo has to do with the speed. Now, whatever makes your heart part faster, it's not healthy for driving, because it makes you to be agitated. So you want to, when the music you're playing music that is so loud, that is fast, there are tendencies for you unconsciously to want to go faster. The speed of the music. So that's why it's better off when you are doing a drive, play something that calms you down, that take it easy. If you put something that's a little bit loud on your stereo in your car, there are tendencies you are excited, because once excitement comes in, you lose track of your state a little bit.
And you forget the speed.
You forget, you just play.
And you put your foot on the accelerator.
Until something happens that, man, I've 120, Jesus is Lord. Then music. So music has a way of affecting how we drive and how we do things. So if you want to do something that is very creative, that is very lucrative, kind of music is needed, soft, and it should be on the background, not something very loud. You should be able to hear your thoughts as you play music. When your thought is not being heard, then you are not.
To hear myself think.
You have to yourself think.
Okay. Yeah, I'm reading something here, Mr. Dio. He said a study on the effect of music therapy on premature babies showed that they sucked better and stayed alert for longer periods when exposed to it. Premature babies react to music. And I've also heard that fetuses also react to music.
Exactly. True.
Yeah.
True.
How is that?
Well, I'll start by saying it's divine.
Sure.
It's divine, because from what we've learned and read, and age-wise, we know that as the growth of a baby, fetus in the womb, gets as they develop and get to a point where they start hearing sound. So now, music is the only tool that works with all the two sides of our brain. Like, I think mathematics is about the only subject that occupies larger parts of the brain, apart from other subjects. But music does
engage both.
It's all encompassing. It deals with your brain at the same time. You can imagine music is melody, harmony, pitch, form,
grammar.
And you are hearing a lot of things at the same time. Your mind, your brain has to process whatever is coming to it. So it begins to walk around the globe in your head. So sound is divine, and that's why your brain cannot even resist anything that comes to it when it comes to sound. So it helps bring even in child development, it helps them grow. It helps children, even in study shows that anything children learn through music it stays with them longer than every other thing. So because it's divine, and you can agree with me that even worshiping God, sound is what we use in communicating to God. So if that's what happened, how much more a baby in the womb? Because sound is the main thing. Music basically helps the development of brain.
How does
in
that
every
happen?
human?
Because at that age, can I even call that age?
They haven't even arrived yet.
They don't even. Do they have ears?
They do.
They do. As fetuses, they old.
Yeah.
Ears.
Yeah.
Now, even a little bit of extension to what my brother was saying, not just humans alone. Research has also proven that even plants respond to music. Because when you talk about music, you deal with frequencies. Now, there's a kind of music you play on a certain scale that a plant that is close by will grow well. And the kind of sound that you create from music that the plant start dying because it's not familiar with it. It's not a friendly kind of. So music is not just for humans alone. The whole earth is structured to respond to music, and the whole earth is musical.
So if I want to plant vegetable, Okay. Now, for the next 10 minutes or thereabout, let's talk about music as a lifestyle.
Lifestyle, okay.
You've spoken about one aspect of lifestyle, which some people enjoy doing. That is driving.
Yeah.
Certain music should not be listened to
when you're driving.
Not artists.
No,
music.
Music, yeah.
Fast-paced music, you take it a notch down.
Fast-paced and loud.
Fast-paced and loud. Mm-hmm. It makes you, your heart race, and consequently everything around you will race. How do people lose consciousness of that fact? Because people do lose consciousness of that fact. How do people lose consciousness of the fact that they're actually speeding when they are listening to this music? Is that absent-mindedness or what?
No, it's pleasure. Our weakest point is when we are excited. That's when we are weak. When you are very excited, you tend to lose track of what is happening. When I'm excited, I can just look, hey, I'm just all over the place. So that excitement that music creates make you lose consciousness. It's not intentionally, but because of your excitement. Like I said, once dopamine has been released into your body system, it's pleasure moments were just, let's just enjoy the cruise.
You're somewhere else.
You're somewhere else. You're not in this world. So you're driving the car, you're actually there. Make me happy. So you're going, then you're not going to try to meditate on the words of the song to get into your soul. You forget that you're holding the steering. So most of the times, if you do your research, it's quite that most of the accidents that happen most of the time, part of it is from the right kind of music with out of context. You're driving, and also
playing loud music.
Because definitely, for instance, there's a rule I was taught by the guy that taught me how to drive. He said, it's nice to be wind up all the time. Sometimes it's good to wind down to also be in the atmosphere, to know what's going around you. Sometimes your car sound may make a strange noise because you wind up and the music is loud. You don't even know that something has gone wrong. You're just closing your eyes, you're singing on the top of your voice. So the pleasure is what people lose track of the current space that they're in.
Okay. Now, there's something we do in broadcasting, right? Yeah. Early morning, upbeat music. Drive time, upbeat music. Dead of the night, slow music.
Sober music.
Lunchtime is mid-tempo. What kind of music? That's for radio. That's for broadcasting. Sure. What kind of music should people listen to at what times of the day to be better productive for themselves?
Okay. Two things will come to play. Outside of the tempo, the issue of the tempo, the speed of the music is the lyrics, if it's song, and if it's instrumental. For instance, if it's song-based, music that helps you think better, to be positive, so be focused. So music can be very distracting. While the sound may be good, but the words of the songs are very, very distracting. So you don't need that for a morning kind of. You need something that calms you down. Like one of the things I saw in research, that even Bob Marley's song, "Three Little Bed," is also classified as one of the songs that is being used for therapeutic treatment.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the words of that song, even "We Will Rock You," so those are songs that cut across, that have been used because of it's just, like I said, they are intentional. the tempo of the music and the pace of your heartbeat, they are all simulated, they go together. So for morning, something that is not too loud.
Wow.
My thoughts must be heard as I listen to the music. Then also, I should think better as I listen. Music happens, like I said, 3 levels: spirit, soul, and body. I should be able to play, when I am playing music, I should be able to go past the lyrics and hear myself that, who am I on the inside of me? What do I want to achieve today? Can I achieve this goal? Faith is also built. The Bible says that faith cometh by hearing. So as you're hearing something, you're thinking something, your belief system is being of heaven. So that's the part of the thing. So in the morning, something quiet. Then in the afternoon, funny enough, I also saw that contrast, that you will think that afternoon will be good for something that is high tempo. No, it depends on your mood. It depends on your preferences. For someone that is not too personality type, you're the quiet type. Fast tempo music anytime may not be the hook for you because it's against your personality.
So is there a reason? It sounds like there is a reason why in banks you play certain kinds of music.
Yeah. Instrumental.
Instrumentals.
Yes.
No words, just instrumental.
Okay. Mr. Ibiyo, still talking about lifestyle, music as a lifestyle. If you would advise anyone going into the year let me ask it this way. If you were to ask people to audit their lives in terms of the music that they listened to in the year 2022, what are the things that you'd be asking them to check to help them make better choices in the year ahead?
All right. Something like my brother mentioned, it's about your personality, your background. You mentioned earlier that classical music is not your thing, that you don't really like it.
He hasn't really listened to the good ones. Don't mind him. Don't mind him.
I know that one that was funkified.
Yeah. Beethoven's Fifth.
Yes.
Fifth Symphony.
So, now, first I would say everyone should be deliberate about every step that you want to take. Because life is not going to just happen. You have to make it happen.
But in terms of that, my apologies, there are those who say, look, popular music is the most popular music. And I know musicologists such as you gentlemen will be scandalized by some music when you listen to them. But that's what's popular with people. So in making, and they're not going to go away. Corporates are still embracing them. They still invite them for parties and all of that. So what should they do, that's the musicians, and what should people be looking at?
I was going to say that everything has context. If at this point in the morning you want to achieve a particular thing, you should play the right kind of music. I was going to say that again, that music therapy is something that everybody should embrace, in the sense that everyone needs it. You need to be in your right senses every time. So thereby, play the right kind of music. If you are the popular music type, but at that time you're at work, does this fit in at that point? You can't be playing that popular music when you are a banker, for instance, at the counter. Yes, you are. When you go to a club, when you get to your club, you can't do that. Nobody's going to question that, because the purpose at that time is that you want to marry, you want to be happy, but
you want to make your customers happy as well.
Mr. Igwe, what's your take on that?
My take on it is about, like I said, be intentional about what you listen to. Because you either feed your spirit or you drain your spirit. And everything we do, be you a Christian or Muslim, stems from who you are on the inside. So you should be able to listen to songs that inspires you. And not all songs can inspire. So you be intentional about, okay, look at the lyrics of the song, look at the tune of the song. How does it look at your personality type? Does it suit you? They look at the environment, because music is not something you do in isolation. You're playing music, there are people around. Now, does it fit this context that I'm in? And personal preferences is good, but look at, okay, the environment. That's what we'll talk about, context. Look at, okay, what time of the day? What is the structure of the music? What do I actually want to achieve by listening to this kind of music? Will this help me? Won't this help me? So you look at that's why you see that even people like Obama, you see something online, Obama has a playlist. So you create your playlist, okay. Monday, January, I have a lot to achieve. There are a lot of deadlines to meet. I need something that it gets me to think at that frequency, because music is about frequency. So I can think at that altitude to get me to start processing that things are possible. No matter how difficult the task my boss has given me, I can do this. If anybody has done it before, I can do it. So there's not all the kind of street song that take you to that frequency. Some just keep you at the page, just make you just for survival, just that you're existing. So you should be intentional about the lyrics of the music, then the instrumentation that govern that such music.
Okay, you're still thinking about it. Okay. Is there any... I'm going to stoke a fire. 3 categories of people: men, women, children. I know you do music for children. So, and speak to parenting. Children just jump to any music as far as they are concerned, especially when they go to parties and all of those things. Is there a way to guide children into the areas of music that they should pay attention to?
Yes.
Or is there a need?
I'll prefer that. There is a need. I know it's quite tough, especially nowadays, because even when you don't solicit for some music, you get to some places, you just launch the music. But there is a need for parents to consciously guide their children to the kind of music that will help their brain development, because at this time of their age, they need to develop. They need to develop resistance, they need to develop tolerance, they need to develop in many ways. So there's some music that they are only exposed to just hyping them. And that's why when they grow older, they can't even think, they just want to gyrate, they just want to go and play, because they are not properly developed. So for their brain development as children, there's a need for parents to really guide the children, the kind of music.
Mr. Iguero.
Yes, sir.
Is there a specific or special kind of songs or music? Okay, I think there's a difference between songs and music. Yeah. Anyway, it's not today. Just this one very, very quickly in about 45 seconds or thereabout. Is there a specific kind of music good for certain genders?
Gender-based? Not really.
Okay.
Yeah, not really, because music is universal. So when we try to do gender-based, then we'll try to streamline it and create a bracket. So there's not, in my own opinion, I may be wrong, I don't see it that way. I just feel because it's universal, it cuts across. You have one head, 2 eyes too, so there's no need for creating the music. So it goes across. There's no...
A quick one,
yes,
to quickly follow up on the question that I asked Mr. Abio the other time. There is certain character of music that children listen to in cartoons, poems, and rhymes, and all of those things. Are there choices? Because there are some... is there a reason for those songs? Because there are some, for instance, there are certain stations that people tell that are advised not to give their children to watch.
Yeah, because of the impact of this music on the children. Most of the cartoons that we listen to, sound for children, they are intentionally created to grab their attention. And people tend to remember what they listen for in music than what the words you say to them. So there are rules guiding those kind of creation of music. And number one, the words must be very friendly. Then the question is, must be didactic, to teach, not just to. So anything that's not teaching the child anything, I think it should be discarded.
I guess I need to speak to some people and ask them, why did you play me Tom and Jerry all my life? Because I still watch Tom and Jerry and I still listen to this music.
Well, that's what it is. There's negative effects of music and there's therapeutic effects of music.
There's some music you should not listen to when you're driving.
Watch what you listen to at what time. It's not the music itself, it's when you listen to it. I suppose, I hope we've added more to your knowledge this morning. And going into the new year, a lot of you are going to be listening to music from now into the new year. So watch the kind of music you listen to. Make sure it is not one that puts you down in the pits. You need music that will uplift your spirit. Like he said, music is for body, soul and spirit. Thank you very much, Mr. Caleb Eguero and Mr. Abiodun Ibiyo, both musicologists. Thank you very much. And we wish you a happy new year indeed.
Same to you.
Sunrise will be right back with the home stretch in just a moment.
Thank you for staying with us. Well, just to quickly let you know that, of course, we just talked about music as a therapy. Well, there are some of us who, I hosted a lawyer once on a radio show. This radio show was about, I called it Timeless Classics at the time. Don't steal my radio program name. And so I would invite people who are established, just come, select
play the
your
kind of music
that you grew up on. So one of them told me, Ayo, you have elongated my life. Because we played old school music that he enjoyed. One of those old school music makers at the time is our guest this morning. If you ever heard Junior and Pretty.
Mm-hmm. This is one half of that pair.
Yes. I told you earlier, I said our guest today is Pretty.
Show Pretty go.
Well, Johnson will have to come and answer for himself. He just happens to also be president of the Performing Musicians Association of Nigeria, Pretty Okafor. Thank you so much.
Thank you and good morning.
For being here. For those who don't know, you literally burst into limelight with when you were a teenager, releasing.
Excuse me, a young teenager.
Yeah, an old teenager.
Yes, so a 19-year-old is an old teenager. He was only 15
at the time. Okay, so you did your first album with Junior. So then you were Junior and Pretty.
Yes.
Oh wow, those were the days, right?
Was fun.
Was fun.
Yeah. It was fun growing up in the industry and having to do what we loved doing. We weren't thinking about money at that time. We were just having fun and running away from the house, from the chores, trying to go do. So it wasn't.
Now tell me, 15-year-olds, you released your first album. So you had been rehearsing for some while, maybe when you were 14 or something.
No. The first group was Junior. Pretty and the Busy Boys. Pretty and the Busy Boys had the likes of Daddy Shoki, Daddy Fresh, La Pasto and all that. So we were in secondary school when I think class 1 going to class 2. Then me and Junior started off. I won't want to discuss why I had to abandon the other group. Then me and Junior started off and it was quite early. We're still in secondary school. But luckily, we were doing all that, and at the time we were about finishing, we got a record deal. Yes, oh, wow. we got a record deal because we were busy playing around festivals, concerts, shows, clubs, and entertaining people. Like I said, we weren't particular about making money. We were just having fun, doing what we love doing, and playing around. And luckily, we got into a record deal, and boom. We were playing around with that genre of music, not knowing it's going to take us from that time to now. And it blew up.
It did blow up because there are those who will never forget Bolanle. In fact, if your name was Bolanle, you were the butt of jokes at the time. So many years down the line, and you know, we don't want to go back into those. I'm pretty sure it's a very, very displeasing experience for you because what happened, you know, to you at the time also happened to these comics at the time, Jacob and Papi Lolo, such that one of them died, and you know it really mentally affected the other, and it's really understandable. But now you have an auspicious job as president of PMAN. I don't think it's an enviable job. I don't even think I want to be.
It is not.
Because, I mean, one of the things that comes to my own mind is all musicians are eccentric. Music makers are just spontaneous people. Yeah. It's so easy to blow up at your president. And if you don't have the patience for them, I don't know. How do you do it?
First is you need to create an understanding and foundation. Musicians are the most difficult people to manage. But because I have a soft side that I listen more than I talk. So I engage their personal issues. So because I'm a musician, I'm a born musician, so I know what you're thinking, what is going through your mind. So reacting to you depend on what I want to get as the outcome. So you can say musicians are volatile. No, they're not volatile. It depends on the mood. Because we're creative people, so your mood swings up and down. Mm-hmm. But because I've been able to, I grew up in that
impulsive.
circle.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Why do you think I use the word eccentric? Okay, now, so, Pretty, we can call you by your artist name, so
yes.
There's no point with that, problem with that. But music has traversed several aspects of life since, Junior and Pretty, most certainly. So many artists, it's so very easy to get into music now. Just have a laptop and then you can make music.
Yeah.
So how does that make the profession of music easy or not?
It's not easy. First, you need to discover yourself. Being a creative person has a whole lot of work to do that you need to do around yourself, around your producers. Yes, you can produce a song with your laptop, but again, you need to be able to sing, you need to be able to pitch, you need to be able to write songs, you need to be able to arrange it, then you need to be able to produce it, then the most important one, be able to market it. Because you can do all that in your house and you're not able to sell it. We have a whole lot of musicians. At the time I got into P-Man, I found out that we're over 6 million. But there wasn't the data for it.
How many?
Over 6 million. Yeah, this was research we did.
Performing musicians.
Performing.
6 million.
Now, when I say performing, I want to break it. A whole lot of research has been going on that which are actually wrong. Creative people should be used as the highest employers of labor. Now, every of your session man, every of your dancer, every of your backup singers are aspiring musicians. Every of your DJs, every of your producers are aspiring musicians. So I'm telling you this whole lot. And for a musician, you're the only one that can go on the road. You are going on the road with 25 set of people. No other profession goes on the road with that set of people. And once you're going on the road with that set of people, you're training them. Now, if they break out to start their own, they have a group of 25 and all that. So I want you to, so that was statistics. We keep getting it wrong, and they will say agriculture is the highest employers of labor. No. When we did it, but again, who are you going to be telling? They want to believe what they want to believe. But we are in the industry, we know. And that's why we did those research, and I found out we're a whole lot. And finding out that we're a whole lot was also why we created, when we launched our biometric card, we found out that a whole lot of people register without even passing through the state chapters. They registered. Like the purchase of the building was through that aspect. Everybody was like, how did you guys do it? P-Man has been moribund. But we have a whole lot of gold, but nobody was looking at it. Nobody was ever able thought to mine it. Nobody was able to mine it. So these are all what we discovered early, and we started working around it.
One of the challenges that comes to mind for me naturally would be, okay, so these are the things that have been happening behind the scenes. How are for want of a better word, popular musicians receiving P-Man? Because there are those who are wondering if the sector, the music sector, is as it is now. There are those who are wondering, hey, there isn't that kind of organization as it is expected to be A&R is gone, marketing is gone, and the terrain has completely changed from back in the day.
Yes.
Back in time, you had the options of a vinyl, of a cassette, of a CD.
Yeah.
Today,
you don't have, you can get a distribution through your WhatsApp.
So,
don't bother any other one, just through your WhatsApp. Yeah,
so how is that to be managed? Because the challenges for broadcast organizations is they will come to that, but how is that to be managed?
Now, when we try to pass information and educate musicians, that the industry has gone beyond what we used to know. The industry has been merged digitally. And digitally is now, how do you sell your work digitally? How do you regulate the work digitally? How do you get revenues digitally? So the conventional way are all collapsed. Now we need to every time reinvent ourselves and our mindset about moving forward, and that's why the positioning of PMAN came to being right now. That's why we're driving the traction to digital age and making the younger ones and the A-listers, the B-listers to see PMAN as a home that take care of your welfare, take care of your music regulation, and take care of your revenue collection.
Your royalties.
Yes.
There's something you said the other time that I am not sure many musicians have really come to terms with. Production of music has also gone digital, such that two people can collaborate on a song and they never meet.
Yes.
I listened to Nathaniel Bassey saying about the person who collaborated with him on that remix of Olorun Agbaye, that they were performing the song together for the first time on stage at one of the editions of the Experience.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you could easily send your own song to somewhere for the other partner on the song.
They line up and do their own.
He does his own part,
and send it back to you,
and then you mix, master, or whatever, and then the whole song is ready. Is that something that is well understood by musicians? And what role does PMAN play in that regard?
Okay, first, maybe it's in our constitution, but I personally would not. I don't intend or don't encourage people tampering with the creative intent of another person, right? So, because I might want to tweak or I might want to say, don't do this work and don't allow it go to the media and all that, and it will affect your way of reasoning, your way of thinking, your way of projection, because musicians are very, very sensitive. So the only thing we could do is creating more avenue for education, making them understand that. Now, having a session like what me and Juno used to do those days when we did Bolanli. Okay, I'll start with Bolanli. When we did Bolanli, where we had a session of, I think, 19-piece band, 19 people at one time in a studio, and there's a producer, there's a director, there's an engineer we bought, and they are telling you, okay, 1, 2, 3. Once you make a mistake, any of the vocal or the guitarist or the keyboardist, you need to start afresh. Not what they do now, you can cut, and so you start afresh. So if the song is going to run for 5 minutes or for 10 minutes, you all are going to start afresh and redo it again. You mustn't make a mistake. But you see, digital age has enabled us that you can create a song, you can create a beat, give me, I'll look at your beat and I'll adjust it, add what I want to adjust that will suit my way of singing, right? Do my drop there, send it back to you, you do your drop, then you now take it again, send it back to an engineer that will mix and master it, right? Then they'll mix and master it to send it back to the digital marketers that will distribute it.
Would you say that this is easier for everybody?
It's easier, but it's more technical.
I get that, but there's a question I have to ask you before we go off. I understand that there are some innovation, P-Man is coming up with under you. If you can, in 60 seconds, talk about that one. What are those innovations and how is it being received, and what would you expect musicians to do about it?
Okay, there's a whole lot that we're doing. First, we're creating a unison in a P-Man, meaning once you're a P-Man member, you get a combo card. You get a biometric card that will take care of your healthcare, take care of your life insurance, take care of your pension plan, take care of your visa assistance, and take care of your contraction.
How are you financing all this?
There's a sum of 6,000. That's what I said. I started with the number. We're huge. There's a sum of 6,000. And I just did a little bit of mathematics. If we get 6,000 times 1 million musicians, that's 6 billion. We have enough to run around with. We have enough to invest. We have enough to play. Now, that also allowed us to create a radio station, a radio studio for P-Man. Now, the radio is live. If you just do via the Google store, you'll see the P-Man FM is running. Not just you want to listen to us in Lagos, you're listening to us everywhere around the world. These are all what we're trying to do. Then we're creating a tour for the upcoming musicians, right? Not the A-listers, the B-listers, the C-listers. The greenhorn, we want to be able to give them a platform to also get international investors and funders to also push their work.
Well, it's unfortunate that our time is up. But
this is very interesting.
It's the start of several conversations that we must have with you. But very, very, very quickly, I think P-Man Awards is the pioneer awards for music awards in the world. Is it coming back?
Yes.
Good. Stop there for now. We'll have more of that some other time. Pretty Okafor of the Junior and Pretty fame is the president of the Performing Musicians Association of Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And compliments of the season to you.
Same to you.
The next time I see you will be next year.
Yes.
Good to see you again. So that wraps up Sunrise for 2022. We'll see you next year with a fresh edition. By that I mean next Saturday, which will be the 6th of January, when we'll bring you a fresh edition. I'm Alero Edu, wishing you all the best and a happy new year.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of your Saturday mornings. God bless you all. See you next year.